Captain Tejo stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the black space filled with enemy ships. The alien fleet was huge, like a dark cloud covering the stars. His ship, the Iron Will, looked very small next to the massive alien vessels each. Enemy ship was 5 times bigger than his own, and there were more than 200 of them. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers and the breathing of his crew. Everyone knew they were facing impossible odds, but no one said anything. About retreat, Captain Tejo had trained his people well. They trusted him even when things looked hopeless. Communications officer Minacio sat at her station watching the lights blink on her control panel. She was young but skilled at her job. Her fingers moved quickly over the buttons as she worked to keep their systems running smoothly. She had been with Captain Tejo for 3 years and had never seen him back down from a fight. Main screen on the bridge suddenly came to life, showing the face of an alien commander. The creature was ugly with multiple eyes that looked like black marbles and teeth that were sharp like broken glass. Its skin was gray and covered with scales that moved when it breathed. The sight made some of the crew members step back, but Captain Tejo did not move. The alien commander began to laugh, and the sound was terrible, like metal scraping against stone. The laughter went on for a long time, echoing through the bridge and making everyone uncomfortable. When it finally stopped, the creature spoke in a voice that sounded like gravel falling down a mountain. Tiny humans, the alien said with a voice full of hate. Your pathetic little ship dares to challenge the great Vorthok Empire we have conquered 1,000 worlds and enslaved millions of people. Now you send us this joke of a ship to fight our mighty fleet. Crew of the Iron Will looked at each other with worried faces. Navigator Jin Woo gripped his control station so hard his knuckles turned white. He was responsible for steering the ship, and he knew how fast the enemy vessels could move. Weapons Officer Su Ben checked her systems again and again, making sure everything was working properly, but her hands were shaking. The alien commander continued to mock them. Look at these weak humans. They shake with fear already. Perhaps we should let them run home to their mothers. It would be more fun to watch them flee like scared animals than to waste our powerful weapons on such. A small target of their alien voices could be heard in the background, laughing and making jokes about human weakness. They called humans soft and cowardly. They said humans were only good for being slaves or food. The insults kept coming, and the crew of the Iron Will had to listen to all of it. Captain Tejo remained calm during all the mockery. His dark eyes stayed fixed on the enemy formation, studying their positions and movements. He had served in the Korean Space Navy for 15 years fighting pirates and protecting trade ships from raiders. He had seen combat many times and knew how to stay cool under pressure. Massive alien ships began to move into attack formation. Their weapons started to charge with deadly energy that made the space around them glow with dangerous light. The Vorthok had plasma cannons that could destroy entire cities and shields that could stop almost any attack. They were confident they would win is live first. Officer Hejin stood beside Captain Tejo, watching the enemy movements with growing concern. She had been his second in command for 5 years and had never questioned his decisions before. But this time was different. The odds were too great, and the enemy too powerful. Captain, she whispered. So the alien commander could not hear? They outnumber us 200 to 1? Maybe we should think about retreating. We could go back to Earth and warn them about the invasion. Captain Tejo turned to look at her with a small smile on his face. Not today, Haijin, he said quietly. Today we show them what happens when they make the mistake of underestimating humanity. The alien commander was still talking about how weak humans were and how easy it would be to destroy their ship. The creature seemed to enjoy the fear it thought it was creating. It told stories about other worlds it had conquered and how quickly the defenders had surrendered. But Captain Tejo was not listening to the insults anymore. He was thinking about the secret weapon hidden deep in his ship, something the aliens had never seen before, something that would change everything about this battle. The weapon had cost billions of dollars and taken 3 years to build, but now it was their only hope. Chief Engineer, Dongman, was working in the restricted section of the ship, preparing the secret device for activation. He had been working on the project since it began and knew every part of the complex machine. The device was humanity's greatest achievement in military technology. The alien fleet continued to move closer, their weapons fully charged and ready to fire. The Vorthok commander was enjoying the moment, savoring what he thought would be an easy victory. He had no idea that the small human ship carried something that would turn the tide of battle throughout the iron while the crew members were preparing for combat. Each person knew their job and was ready to do their part. Navigator Jinwoo plotted escape routes just in case. Weapons Officer Subin charged their conventional weapons, even though she knew they would not be enough. Communications Officer Manesio kept all channels open so they could coordinate their actions. Space around them was filled with tension as the two forces faced each other, the massive alien fleet, with its hundreds of ships and thousands of crew members against one small human vessel with less than 50 people aboard. It looked like the most uneven battle in the history of space warfare. Captain Tejo looked at his crew and saw the fear in their eyes, but also the determination. They were scared, but they would not run away. They were human, and humans did not give up when things got difficult. He was proud of them and knew they would do their best. No matter what happened, the alien commander finished his speech about human weakness and began to give orders to his fleet. The massive ships moved into their final attack positions with weapons aimed at the iron will. The crew could see the energy building up in the enemy guns, getting ready to fire. In a few minutes, the battle would begin and everything would change. The aliens thought they were about to destroy a weak human ship, but they had no idea what was really waiting for them, Captain. Tejo took a deep breath and prepared to show the galaxy what human engineering could accomplish when pushed to its limits. The fleet had laughed at the human vessel, but very soon they would learn why that was a terrible mistake. Deep inside the iron will, in a section that most crew members had never seen, Chief Engineer Dongmin worked frantically on the most important machine ever built by human hands. The room was filled with flashing lights and the sound of electricity crackling through thick cables. The air itself seemed to vibrate with barely contained energy. The device in front of him was unlike anything else in the galaxy. It stood 10 feet tall and was covered in warning symbols that glowed red in the dim light. Radiation detectors beeped constantly as the machine drew power from the ship main reactor. The metal surface was warm to the touch and hummed with a deep sound that could be felt in the bones project. Starfall was humanity's greatest secret, hidden from the galaxy for 3 years while scientists and engineers worked around the clock to perfect it. The machine had cost more money than most planets made in a decade and required technology that pushed the limits of human knowledge, but now it was their only hope against the massive alien fleet. Dongmin had been working on the project since the beginning, when it was just an idea in the minds of brilliant scientists on Earth. He knew every wire, every circuit, and every safety system better than anyone else alive. His hands moved with practiced skill as he made the final adjustments needed to prepare the device for combat. The machine was designed to do something that alien scientists said was impossible. It could absorb energy from incoming attacks and redirect that power into the ship's systems. The more the enemy fired at them, the stronger the iron will would become. It was like turning the enemy weapons into fuel for their own ship project, Starfall, ready for activation. Dongmin spoke into his communicator to the bridge. All safety systems are in place, Captain, but I must warn you again, we have never tested this machine at full power. The energy levels could tear our ship apart from the inside. The device began to glow brighter as more power flowed into its core. The warning lights around the room flashed faster, and the sound of contained energy grew louder. Dongmin watched the readings on his instruments, making sure everything stayed within safe limits. But knowing that soon they would have to push beyond those limits. Back on the bridge, Captain Tejo received the report from his chief engineer. He looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet moving closer with weapons fully charged. In a few minutes, the aliens would open fire, and then they would find out if Project Starfall really worked. Toneman, Captain Tejo replied. Begin the charging sequence and prepare for full activation throughout the iron will. The lights began to dim as massive amounts of power were pulled from every system and redirected to the secret weapon. The normal blue glow of the engine room changed to an ominous red color as the machine began to wake up. Crew members throughout the ship felt a strange tingling sensation, as if the air around them was becoming charged with electricity. The device had been built using salvaged alien technology combined with human engineering in ways that no other species had ever attempted. Earth scientists had studied captured enemy ships and learned how their power systems worked. Then they had improved on those designs, creating something that was better than anything the aliens had ever built. Energy levels at 30% reported. Dongmin, as he watched the readings climb higher, the containment fields are holding, but the stress on the ship hull is getting very high. Captain, we are approaching the danger zone. The machine continued to draw power from the ship reactor, causing the lights to flicker and the artificial gravity to fluctuate slightly. Some crew members had to hold on to their stations as the ship's systems struggled to provide enough energy for the hungry device. The sound of straining metal could be heard. Throughout the vessel on the main screen, the Vorthok fleet was preparing for their final attack. The massive alien ships had formed a perfect battle formation, with their most powerful vessels in the front rows. Their weapons were fully charged and ready to fire enough destructive power to destroy a small moon. Captain Tahoe watched the enemy formation with calm eyes. He had studied their battle tactics for months, preparing for this moment. The aliens always attacked the same way, using overwhelming firepower to crush their enemies quickly. They had no idea that this time their own weapons would be turned against them. Sir, called out Sensor Officer Kung Ho. The enemy fleet is preparing to fire. I can see energy building up in their main batteries. They will open fire in less than 2 minutes. Captain Tahoe nodded and activated his communicator. How long until we reach full power? Dongmin, he asked. 2 minutes, Captain? Maybe less if I push the systems beyond their design limits, Dongmin replied. The machine is responding better than we hoped, but the power requirements are enormous. Do it, Tahoe commanded. Push everything to maximum power. We will not get a second chance at this. The iron will began to shake as even more power flowed into Project Starfall. The device was now drawing so much energy that non-essential systems throughout the ship began to shut down automatically. The crew worked by the light of emergency lamps as the machine consumed every available watt of power in the restricted section. Warning alarms began to sound as the weapon approached its activation threshold. The containment fields that kept the dangerous energy from escaping were holding, but they were being pushed to their absolute limits. Dongmin watched the readings with growing concern, knowing that one small mistake could destroy them. All the machine had been designed by the brightest minds on Earth, working together to create something that would give humanity a fighting chance against superior alien technology. They had taken the best ideas from physics engineering and captured alien science to build a weapon that could change the course of the war. Captain, the device is reaching critical power levels, announced Dongmin. The energy output is beyond anything we have ever achieved before. If this works, we will have enough power to fight an entire fleet. Alien commander on the main screen was still laughing and making jokes about human weakness. He had no idea that the small human ship was about to unleash something that would rewrite the rules of space warfare. Vorthok had conquered 1,000 worlds using brute force and superior numbers, but they had never faced an enemy that could turn their own strength against the energy levels at 90%, reported Dongmin. The containment field is fluctuating, but it is holding, Captain. We are almost ready, Captain. Tahoe looked at his crew and saw the mixture of fear and hope in their eyes. They all knew that in the next few minutes they would either witness humanity's greatest triumph or die in the attempt, but none of them suggested retreat. They were ready to see this through to the end. The machine reached full power, and the entire ship was bathed in a strange silver light that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The crew could feel the energy flowing through the walls and floors like electricity through their bodies. Project Starfall was ready, and the alien fleet was about to learn what happened when they underestimated human determination and ingenuity. Battle was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Vorthok fleet opened fire with a display of destructive power that lit up the darkness of space like a deadly fireworks show. Hundreds of plasma beams streaked toward the iron will, each one carrying enough energy to destroy an entire city. Block the alien weapons fired in perfect coordination, creating a wall of death that no ship should have been able to survive. Captain Tahoe watched the incoming fire on his tactical display and did something that shocked everyone on both sides of the battle. Instead of trying to dodge the deadly beams or raising defensive shields, he gave an order that seemed like madness. All stop, he commanded in a calm voice. Hold our position and maintain current course. Navigator Ginwu turned to stare at his captain with wide eyes. "Captain, the enemy fire will hit us in 15 seconds. If we do not move, we will be destroyed." "Me," Captain Tejo replied, without taking his eyes off the main screen. "Dongmin, are we ready for this starfall? Is it 95% power?" the chief engineer reported from deep within the ship. "The containment field is fluctuating, but it is holding." "We are as ready as we will ever." Beatty crew of the Iron Will watched in horror as the alien plasma bolts raced toward them. The energy beams were beautiful and terrible at the same time, glowing with colors that hurt to look at directly. Each bolt was perfectly aimed, and there was no way to avoid them. The ship would be hit by hundreds of devastating attacks, all at the same time, but Captain Tejo had a plan that no alien commander could have imagined. The secret weapon hidden in his ship was not just designed to absorb energy, it was built to absorb specific types of energy like the plasma weapons that every alien race used in their fleets. The more they fired at the Iron Will, the stronger his ship would become. Alien plasma bolts struck the human ship with tremendous force that should have torn it apart instantly, but instead of exploding against the hull, something impossible happened. The surface of the Iron Will began to glow with a strange silver light that seemed to come from inside the metal itself. The deadly energy beams simply disappeared, as if they had never existed on the Vorthok command ship. The alien commander stared at his tactical display in complete disbelief. His multiple eyes blinked rapidly as he tried to understand what he was seeing. The human ship had taken a direct hit from hundreds of plasma cannons, and was still intact, more than intact. It was actually glowing brighter than before. "What sorcery is this?" the alien commander shouted at his crew. "Our weapons had no effect on their ship. How is this possible?" "Sir," reported a trembling alien officer, "their ship is absorbing our energy attacks. The readings do not make any sense. According to our instruments, they are actually getting stronger." The truth was both simple and revolutionary. Project Starfall was not just a weapon, it was an energy conversion. A system that could absorb incoming attacks and redirect that power into the ship-owned systems. The device worked by creating a field around the iron. Well, that captured energy particles and channeled them into the ship reactor. Every shot that hit them made them more powerful, Captain announced Chief Engineer Dongmin, with barely contained excitement in his voice. "We have reached 120% power. The system is working perfectly. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we become." Throughout the Iron Will, the crew watched in amazement as their ship transformed before their eyes. The hull gleamed with absorbed energy that rippled across the surface. Like liquid metal, the engines roared with newfound power that made the entire vessel vibrate with strength. Every system on the ship was now operating at levels far beyond their original design. Alien fleet continued to fire, thinking that surely their concentrated attack would overwhelm the small human ship. But each new barrage only made the Iron Will more powerful. The energy absorption system was working exactly as the Earth scientists had hoped, turning the enemy greatest strength to their own weakness. "Impossible," whispered the Vorthok commander, as he watched his most powerful weapons fail completely. "No species in the galaxy has ever developed such technology. Our science division assured us that energy absorption on this scale was impossible." Captain Tejo smiled coldly as he watched the enemy fleet struggled to understand what was happening to them. Communications officer Minesio opened a channel to the entire enemy fleet. He ordered. The main screen flickered and changed to show Captain Tejo face to every ship in the alien armada. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had just turned the tide of an impossible battle. His words were calm, but filled with the promise of destruction. "No tension. Vorthok Fleet," Captain Tejo began. "You came here expecting to find weak prey that would surrender without a fight. Instead, you found humans. We do not surrender to bullies. We do not run away when things get difficult, and we certainly do not let alien empires terrorize innocent people." The enemy ships had stopped firing as their commanders tried to figure out what was happening to their weapons. The plasma beams that should have destroyed the human ship had instead made it stronger than ever before. Some of the alien captains were beginning to panic as they realized their entire battle plan was failing. "Thank you for the energy donation, Captain," Tejo continued with a smile that was both polite and terrifying. "Now let us show you what we can do with the power you so generously provided." The Iron Will had absorbed enough energy to power a small planet, and every system on the ship was running at peak efficiency. The weapons were charged beyond their maximum ratings, the shields were stronger than ever before, and the engines were producing thrust that would have been impossible under normal circumstances throughout the Vorthok. Fleet alien commanders were shouting orders at their crews, trying to understand how their perfect plan had gone so wrong. They had brought enough firepower to destroy a dozen human ships, but somehow their target was not only surviving but growing stronger with each attack. The human ship began to move with speed and grace that seemed impossible for a vessel of its size. The absorbed energy had enhanced every system, including the engines and maneuvering thrusters. The Iron Will danced through space like a fighter craft, instead of a heavy cruiser avoiding the confused alien attempts to target it. Captain Tejo looked at his crew and saw the fear in their eyes replaced by hope and determination. They had witnessed something incredible. The transformation of their ship from an underdog into a force that could challenge the entire enemy fleet. The impossible had become possible through human ingenuity and determination. The battle was far from over, but the tide had turned completely. The aliens had made the fatal mistake of underestimating human engineering, and now they were about to pay the price for their arrogance. The fleet that had laughed at the human vessel was about to learn why that laughter had been premature. Project Starfall had worked beyond their wildest dreams, and now it was time to show the galaxy what happened when you attacked humanity. The transformation of the Iron Will was like watching a miracle happen in real time. The ship had absorbed so much energy from the alien attacks that it no longer looked like the same vessel that had entered the battle. The hull glowed with brilliant white light that pulsed like a heartbeat, and the engines produced thrust that defied the laws of physics. All weapon systems are online and operating at maximum capacity, reported weapons officer Subin, her voice filled with awe and disbelief. Captain, our firepower has increased by over 300%. I have never seen readings like this before. Weapon systems that had been designed to fight pirates and small raiders were now charged with enough power to challenge the largest alien battleships. The energy absorption technology had transformed their modest guns into weapons that could compete with anything in the galaxy. Captain Tejo studied the tactical display, showing the confused enemy fleet struggling to understand what had happened to their perfect battle plan. Target the lead destroyer, he ordered. Show them what absorbed Vorthok energy can do when it is properly focused and directed back at them. Iron Will turned toward the massive enemy destroyer that had been leading the alien attack formation. The ship was 5 times larger than the human vessel and carried enough weapons to destroy a small city, but size would not matter anymore. The rules of space warfare had just been rewritten. Subin locked onto the target and fired a single concentrated beam that cut through the darkness of space like a sword made of pure light. The energy beam was composed entirely of redirected alien power that had been absorbed and converted by Project Starfall. It was their own weapon turned against them with devastating effect. The beam struck the Vorthok destroyer with incredible force that made the massive ship shudder and shake. The alien vessel shields collapsed instantly like soap bubbles popping in the wind. The advanced armor that had protected the ship through dozens of battles melted away like ice under a blowtorch. Within seconds, the entire destroyer exploded in a brilliant fireball that could be seen from distant star systems. Complete silence fell across the communication channels as both fleets tried to process what they had just witnessed. The humans had destroyed one of the most powerful ships in the Vorthok fleet with a single shot, using energy that had been meant to destroy them. The impossible had become reality. Impossible, breathed the alien commander, his voice shaking with fear and disbelief. Our destroyer had the most advanced defensive systems in the entire empire. How did they penetrate our shields and armor so easily? The alien crews throughout the fleet were beginning to panic as they realized that their weapons were not only useless, but actually making their enemies stronger. Every shot they fired was being absorbed and converted into more power for the SLE human ship. It was like feeding ammunition to someone who was shooting back at you. Vader Jinwoo checked his instruments with trembling hands. Captain, the enemy fleet is trying to reposition themselves. They are attempting to surround us and attack from multiple angles. Let them come, Captain. Tejo replied with confidence that surprised even his own crew. The more ships that attack us, the more powerful we become. It is like they are feeding us ammunition for our own weapons. The Vorthok Fleet opened fire again, this time with carefully coordinated strikes from multiple directions. The alien commanders thought that surely a concentrated attack from all sides would overwhelm the human energy absorption system, but they were wrong. Again, each new attack only made the iron will stronger and more dangerous. Hundreds of energy beams converged on the human ship from every direction, creating a spectacular light show that illuminated the entire battlefield. The space around the iron will looked like the inside of a star as plasma beams struck the hull from all angles. But instead of destroying the ship, the attacks were absorbed and converted into even more power. Captain, we are now operating at 150%. Power Chief Engineer Dongmin reported with excitement that could be heard throughout the ship. The energy absorption rate is incredible. At this rate, we could provide power for an entire planet. Alien crews watched in growing horror as their target began to glow like a small sun. The iron will had become something beyond their understanding, a vessel that fed on destruction and grew stronger with each passing moment. Their most powerful weapons were useless against an enemy that turned their attacks into fuel, sir, reported a panicked alien officer to his commander. Their ship is moving faster than our targeting systems can track, and their energy signature is completely off our charts. The iron will was now moving through space with speed and agility that seemed impossible for a ship of its size. The absorbed energy had enhanced every system, including the engines and maneuvering thrusters. The vessel danced between the alien ships like a fighter craft, avoiding their clumsy attempts to target it. The Vorthok commander watched his tactical display with growing desperation as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. Half of his fleet was already showing damage from the human counterattacks, and the enemy ship was still growing stronger. The single human vessel had become a force that could destroy his entire armada. All ships cease fire, the commander ordered desperately. We are only making them stronger. Every shot we fire gives them more power to use against us, but it was too late. The iron will had absorbed enough energy to power a small fleet, and Captain Tejo was ready to put that power to devastating use. The human ship had become an unstoppable force that turned the enemy's greatest strength into their own weakness. The crew of the iron will worked with efficiency born of years of training together. Each person knew their job and performed it perfectly despite the incredible circumstances they found themselves in. They had witnessed their ship transform from an underdog into a weapon that could challenge the entire galaxy. Target the command ship, Captain Tejo ordered. We are going to have a conversation with their leader about the consequences of attacking human colonies. The iron will accelerated toward the massive Vorthok flagship, moving with impossible speed through the scattered enemy formation. The alien ships tried to intercept, but they were too slow and confused to coordinate their efforts effectively. The human vessel slipped through their defenses like water through a nether. Flagship fired desperately at the approaching human ship, but every shot was absorbed and converted into more power for the iron will. The massive alien vessel had enough weapons to destroy a small moon, but all that firepower was useless against an enemy that grew stronger with each attack. The battle had become a rout. The Vorthok fleet that had approached with such confidence and arrogance was now scattered and demoralized. Their weapons were useless, their tactics had failed, and their enemy was growing more powerful every second. The humans had turned the tide of battle, using the aliens' own strength against them. Captain Tejo smiled grimly as he watched the enemy fleet struggle with the impossible situation they had created for themselves. They had come expecting easy prey, and instead found a predator that fed on their attacks. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating human ingenuity. The battlefield had been completely transformed from what it looked like when the battle began. Where once a massive alien fleet had threatened a single human ship, now that same vessel moved through space like an avenging angel, blazing with absorbed energy. The iron will had become something unprecedented in the history of galactic warfare, a ship that grew stronger with every attack launched against it. Captain, I am detecting panic communications across the entire enemy fleet, reported Sensor Officer Kung Ho as he monitored the alien transmissions. They are trying to retreat, but their formation is breaking apart completely. Their commanders are arguing with each other about who is responsible for this disaster. Captain Tejo studied the tactical display with growing satisfaction as he watched the once mighty Vorthok fleet scatter across space like leaves in a storm. The alien ships were no longer working together as a coordinated force. Instead, they were acting like individual vessels trying to save themselves from an impossible situation. Some of the enemy ships were attempting to flee at maximum speed, while others were trying to regroup for another attack. Most of the alien commanders had no idea what they were dealing with and were making desperate decisions based on fear rather than military strategy. None of them understood that they were facing technology that made conventional space warfare completely obsolete. The command ship Captain Teho ordered, "With cold determination, let us have a direct conversation with their leader about the consequences of attacking innocent human colonies." The Iron Will accelerated toward the massive Vorthok flagship with speed that was now 3 times faster than. When the battle began, the absorbed energy had enhanced every system on the ship, including the engines and maneuvering thrusters. The vessel moved through space with the grace of a dancer and the power of a hurricane. The enemy flagship was a massive ship that normally commanded respect from every vessel in the galaxy. It carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets and had armor that could withstand attacks from entire fleets. But all of that meant nothing against a ship that could absorb energy and turn it into more power for its own systems. The flagship fired desperately at the approaching human ship, launching everything it had in a final attempt to destroy the impossible enemy. But every plasma beam, every missile, and every energy bolt was absorbed by the Iron Will and converted into more fuel for the human vessel. The attack only made their enemy stronger. Direct hit on the command ship forward shields, announced Weapons Officer Su Ben as she monitored the effectiveness of their return fire. Their defensive systems are down to 60% and falling rapidly. Captain Teho held his fire instead of pressing the attack. He had something more important in mind than simply destroying the enemy flagship. He wanted to send a message that would be heard throughout the galaxy. Captain Teho opened a communication channel to the alien command ship, and the main screen showed the Vorthok commander face twisted with terror and disbelief. The alien leader had started the battle full of confidence and arrogance, but now he looked like a creature facing its worst nightmare. He wanted to demonstrate your empire power, Captain Teho said in a calm voice that carried more threat than any shout. Now, let me show you what human determination and ingenuity can accomplish when we are pushed to our limits. The alien commander voice shook as he tried to speak. "What are you?" he whispered. "No species in the galaxy possesses technology like this. Our greatest scientists said that energy absorption on this scale was theoretically impossible. Your scientists never met humans, Captain." Teho replied with a smile that was both polite and terrifying. "You have a special talent for making the impossible look easy, especially when our colonies and our people are being threatened by alien empires around them." The remaining Vorthok ships continued their chaotic retreat, but the Iron Will was now fast enough and powerful enough to catch any vessel that tried to escape. The absorbed energy had transformed every system on the ship, creating capabilities that exceeded the original design specifications by thousands of percent. The alien fleet that had approached with such overwhelming numerical superiority was now scattered and demoralized. More than half of their ships had been destroyed or disabled by the single human vessel. The Iron Will had become an unstoppable force that turned their greatest strength into their own weakness. "Captain," it's called Chief Engineer Dongmin. "Over the communication system, we are approaching maximum safe power levels for our containment systems. If we absorb much more energy, we might have to start venting the excess power into space then. Let us put this energy to good use." Captain Teho decided all ships in the enemy fleet, "This is your final warning. Surrender immediately or face the full consequences of your actions against humanity." Vorthok commander looked at his tactical display where the devastating results of the battle were clearly visible. His mighty fleet had been reduced to scattered groups of damaged ships, trying desperately to escape from an enemy they could not understand or defeat. The single human ship had accomplished what should have been impossible. It had faced overwhelming odds and turned them into an advantage, using the enemy-owned weapons against them. The Iron Will had become a symbol of human determination and ingenuity that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "We surrender," the alien commander whispered, his voice barely audible over the communication. Channel, we formally surrender to the human vessel. But Captain Tejo was not finished with his demonstration. He had a message that needed to be sent to every species in the galaxy. A message about what happened when you underestimated humanity. The battle had been won, but the war for respect and recognition was just beginning. The Iron Will moved through the scattered enemy fleet like a predator among prey. The ship glowed, with absorbed energy that made it look like a small star moving through the darkness of space. Every alien vessel that saw it would remember this moment and carry the story to their homeworlds. The transformation was complete. The human ship that had been mocked and laughed at by the alien fleet had become the most feared vessel in the galaxy. The Iron Will had proven that size and numbers meant nothing when faced with human creativity and determination. Captain Tejo looked at his crew and saw the pride and amazement in their eyes. They had witnessed something that would change the course of galactic history. The age of alien domination was ending, and the age of human respect was about to begin. The fleet had laughed at the human vessel, but now that laughter had been replaced by fear and respect, the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The news of the impossible victory spread through the galaxy faster than the speed of light, carried by traitors, diplomats, and survivors who had witnessed something that changed everything they thought they knew about space warfare. The story was always the same, no matter who told it. A single human ship had defeated an entire alien armada by using their own weapons against them. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Captain Tejo sat in his command chair, reviewing the final battle reports that would be sent back to Earth. The Vorthok fleet had surrendered completely, with their surviving crews taken as prisoners, according to the rules of galactic warfare. But more importantly, the victory had established something completely new in the galaxy: genuine respect for human capabilities. Captain, reported Communications Officer Menesio, as she monitored the flood of incoming messages. We are receiving communications from across the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council wants to meet with human representatives immediately. Several major species are requesting urgent trade agreements, and 3 different empires are offering military alliance proposals. The transformation in galactic attitudes toward humanity was remarkable and immediate. Before the battle, humans had been viewed as a weak species that was suitable only for conquest or enslavement. Most alien races had considered Earth to be an easy target that could be taken whenever they felt like expanding their territories. Now, everything had changed. The species that had been dismissed as primitive and helpless were suddenly feared and respected as innovators who could turn any enemy's strength into a devastating weakness. The battle had proven that human ingenuity could overcome any advantage that superior technology or numbers might provide. Sir, added Navigator Jinwoo, as he processed the technical requests flooding their communication systems. The Terran Defense Force is requesting a complete technical briefing on Project Starfall. They want to begin mass production of the energy absorption technology immediately. Captain Tejo nodded thoughtfully as he considered the implications of what they had accomplished. The energy absorption technology would revolutionize much more than just space warfare. It could transform space travel, planetary defense systems, and industrial production throughout human space. The victory had given humanity a technological advantage that would last for generations. Chief Engineer Dongmin appeared on the bridge, looking tired but triumphant after spending hours analyzing the performance data from their incredible battle. Captain, I have completed the final technical analysis of the system performance during combat. The energy absorption rate exceeded all our most optimistic projections by over 200%. What about the long-term stability of the technology? Asked First Officer Haijin. Will the system continue to work reliably with regular use, or was this a one-time success? Better than we ever hoped, Dongmin replied with a smile that showed his pride in the achievement. The system actually becomes more efficient with each use. The device learns from every different type of energy pattern it encounters and adapts to handle them more effectively. The implications of this discovery were staggering. Humanity had not just created a powerful defensive technology, it had built a system that improved itself with experience. Any species that chose to attack humans would only succeed in making their defenses stronger and more effective. Captain, announced Sensor Officer Kung Ho, we are receiving a priority communication directly from Earth. The President wants to speak with you personally about the battle and its results, as the long-range communication system. Established contact with Earth Captain Tejo, reflected on how dramatically everything had changed in just a few hours. A short time ago, they had been facing impossible odds against a vastly superior enemy fleet. Now they were returning home as heroes who had fundamentally altered the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The main screen showed the president's face beaming with pride, relief, and amazement at what had been accomplished. Captain Tejo, on behalf of all humanity, I want to thank you and your entire crew for this incredible victory. Your success has not only saved our colonies, but has established our species. As a major power in galactic politics, we were simply doing our duty, Mr. President, Captain. Tejo replied with the modesty that had always characterized his leadership style, but I believe it is safe to say that no alien fleet will ever again make the mistake of underestimating human vessels or human determination. President smiled with satisfaction. Indeed, Captain, the entire galaxy has learned an important lesson today. When hostile forces attack humans, they do not just face our conventional weapons, face our determination, our creativity, our refusal to surrender, and our ability to turn their own strength against them, as your battle clearly demonstrated that. Combination makes us far more dangerous than any traditional fleet news of the battle was already spreading to every corner of human space, inspiring celebrations on dozens of worlds that had lived in fear of alien invasion. The victory had given humanity something precious that they had never possessed before in Galactic affairs: genuine respect from species that had previously viewed them as inferior. The scientific implications of Project Starfall were being studied by research teams on every human world. The technology promised to revolutionize energy production, space travel, and defensive systems in ways that would benefit civilian populations as well as military forces. Humanity had gained access to capabilities that would transform their entire civilization. As the Iron will set course for Earth, Captain Tejo looked out at the stars with a new sense of appreciation and confidence. The galaxy was vast and filled with powerful species that had dominated space for thousands of years. But humanity had proven that intelligence and determination could overcome any advantage that size or numbers might provide. The crew worked with quiet efficiency as they prepared for the journey home. Each person knew that they had participated in something historic that would be remembered for generations. The battle had proven that humans deserved a place among the great powers of the galaxy, and that place would be earned through capability rather than conquest. The victory had established a new reputation for humanity throughout the galaxy. The species that had once been dismissed as weak and primitive were now recognized as innovators and warriors who could turn any attack into their own advantage. The Iron Will had become a symbol of human potential that would inspire future generations. The alien fleet had made the fatal mistake of laughing at the human vessel before they understood what they were truly facing. That laughter had been replaced by fear and respect as the galaxy learned why underestimating humanity was the most dangerous mistake any species could make. The battle was over, but its consequences would shape galactic politics for centuries to come. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. It's not through conquest, but through the demonstration of capabilities that no other species could match. The Iron Will had proven that human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle when backed by determination and courage. Captain Tejo smiled as he thought about the future. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity, and that respect would open doors to opportunities that had never existed before. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and it be built on the foundation of the victory they had achieved against impossible odds.